Most people think that the moment they stop fighting and finally walk away is the moment the abuse ends. But Carl Jung's psychology shows a darker truth. The moment a narcissist realizes you are done is often the moment real danger begins. You may wonder why, just when you finally choose yourself, the situation suddenly becomes more intense than any argument before. Why does your silence cause a reaction that feels planned to destroy your peace and make you question your own sanity? There is a hidden final move they save for this exact moment. A psychological trap not meant to win you back, but to break your trust in your own reality. What is this unseen mechanism that turns your own nature against you? And how can you recognize it before it works? In this video, we uncover how this final tactic operates and give you the psychological tools to see it clearly, so when you leave, you remain untouchable. Carl Jung taught that human connection is more than words or actions. It is a deep exchange of psychic energy. When two people connect, an unconscious bridge forms between them. In healthy relationships, energy flows back and forth and nourishes both people. In narcissistic relationships, the flow moves in only one direction. The narcissist, cut off from true inner vitality, survives by draining energy from others. In a psychological sense, they live as parasites. The moment you emotionally detach, that energy supply stops. You may still be in the same house, still cooking dinner, still sitting beside them in a car. To others, nothing looks different, but inside the unseen world of the psyche, a famine begins. The narcissist starts to starve. This starvation triggers a primal panic. It is not the fear of losing love, it is the fear of suffocation. It is the terror of a drowning person realizing the oxygen has been cut off. Suddenly, they become hyper-aware of you. They watch you with a predatory focus. They scan your face, searching for irritation, fear, affection, anything that proves you still react to them. When they find nothing, the atmosphere shifts. The room feels heavy, charged, almost electric. You may be sitting quietly thinking about a future that no longer depends on them. You say nothing, yet the temperature seems to drop. They sense your independence as danger. Their question sounds casual but feels like interrogation. What are you thinking? It is not curiosity, it is sonar. When you reply calmly, nothing much, and they feel your indifference, their anxiety spikes. A narcissist cannot see themselves directly. They see their reflection in your reactions. If you are angry, they feel powerful. If you are sad, they feel important. If you are indifferent, they feel invisible. This terror drives their next behavior. They must provoke a response, any response. Silence is unbearable to them. It is the stillness before a predator strikes. They begin with small violations, subtle insults, broken promises, ignored boundaries. They wait for you to react. They hope for anger because anger proves they still matter. When you refuse and remain calm, you force them to face a void they have avoided all their lives. That is when starvation turns into desperation. They realize passive feeding is over. Now they must extract energy by force. In the next stage, the mask begins to invert. Jung spoke of the reversal of opposites. Extreme charm must flip into extreme cruelty. The love bombing could not last. The pendulum swings. The person who once adored you now looks at you with cold disgust. You did nothing wrong. You simply stopped playing. Yet in their mind, your withdrawal feels like betrayal. They cannot hold complexity. You are either hero or enemy. When you stop being the savior, you become the villain. They rewrite the story instantly. You become the abuser. You become cold. You become the narcissist. Daily moments reveal the shift. The compliment becomes a sneer. The warmth becomes contempt. They target insecurities with precision. It is not about clothes or behavior. It is a probe to see if you still bleed. Pain becomes their substitute for love. They project their own shame and self-hatred onto you. Your growth threatens them. They rewrite history, twist memories, deny facts, and gaslight aggressively. The good version you remember was a persona. What you see now is closer to truth. The shift in their eyes from warmth to predatory cold is real. When they cannot control you privately, they move publicly. They attack your reputation. Jung wrote about the collective shadow and the power of group dynamics. The narcissist understands this instinctively. They begin whisper campaigns, concerned tones, subtle lies, seeds of doubt planted in friends, family, co-workers. They frame themselves as victim and you as unstable. By the time you seek support, the story is already shaped. Your justified reactions are viewed as proof of instability. Isolation is the goal. They mobilize others as unwitting agents. You feel judged without knowing why. The room changes when you enter. Doubt creeps into your mind. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I imagined it. This confusion feeds them. They thrive on chaos. They watch from a distance, feeling powerful. This is not personal, though it feels deeply personal. It is tactical. They burn your reputation to hide their own emptiness. Then the wind changes. Rage disappears. Tears appear. The predator pretends to surrender. This stage is more dangerous than anger. A wounded child triggers your compassion. Jung warned the greatest danger often appears as vulnerability. They know your empathy. They know your savior instinct. They cry, admit faults, promise change, seek therapy, speak softly. It feels real. It mirrors your hope. You see potential. You feel their pain. Your defenses melt. You think maybe this is the breakthrough. But true change is slow, painful, solitary work. What you witness is strategy, a tactical retreat. They ask for rescue, they show up late at night, exhausted, desperate, they share childhood trauma, they claim you are the only one who understands, it crowns you savior, but they do not want healing, they want carrying. If you open the door, the cycle accelerates, tears dry, promises fade, abuse returns stronger. They threaten despair if you leave. Emotional blackmail disguised as suffering. The test is whether you can witness pain without owning it. Love for yourself feels cruel, but it is necessary. When you refuse, the final trick fails, and the predator returns enraged. Now we reach the final maneuver. Projective identification. Not simple projection, but psychological invasion. They do not just accuse you of being angry. They provoke you until you become angry. They transfer their chaos, shame, rage, and inadequacy into you. You become the container for their shadow. They erode your nervous system slowly. Boundary violations, denials, subtle insults, public whispers. Your body reacts before your mind. Tight chest, trembling hands, foggy thoughts. You feel emotions that are not yours. Jung noted unconscious feelings spread like infection. They remain calm while pressure builds. They become the eye of the storm. Eventually, you explode. You cry, shout, defend, protest. And in that moment, they point and say, "See, you are unstable. See, you are the problem." They step back, relieved. Their shame now sits in you. Their madness now appears to be yours. This is the psychological sleight of hand. But awareness breaks the spell. The moment you see the pattern, the transfer fails. You reclaim your emotions. You separate your psyche from theirs. Their chaos returns to them where it belongs. The path forward is clarity. Your silence was strength, not weakness. Your withdrawal was truth, not cruelty. Their reactions reveal their inner emptiness, not your worth. When you walk away with awareness, you remove their final weapon. And for the first time, they must face themselves without a mirror. Here's that section rewritten carefully. I kept the meaning and flow the same, changed wording slightly, did not reduce volume, avoided headings and subheadings, and used simple English punctuation. The tone and intensity remain intact. Calm on the surface and seemingly logical, they remain steady while slowly tearing holes in the roof of your sanity so the storm can pour in. They want you to scream. They need you to scream. Your self-control feels like an insult to their existence because it reflects the inner stability they do not possess. They begin pressing on your deepest wounds, the ones you trusted them with during the early bonding stage, turning your vulnerability into a blade meant to cut you open. Eventually, your body takes control. The amygdala, the part of the brain that detects threat, is hijacked. Stress hormones surge through your system. Adrenaline rises. Cortisol floods in. The rational prefrontal cortex shuts down. You snap. You scream until your throat burns. You hurl an object against the wall. You collapse into shaking sobs. You say words you never normally use. You behave in ways that feel foreign to who you are. You have entered what is often called reactive abuse. Though that term is misleading, it is not abuse. It is a survival reaction to sustained psychological torture. Yet, in that moment, to anyone watching and painfully to yourself, you appear to be the abuser. In that exact instant, the narcissist changes. A flash of satisfaction crosses their face, almost like a chemical high. They have succeeded. Their shadow has been transferred into you. They shift instantly into the victim role. They may pull out a phone and begin recording. They may turn to witnesses they carefully position nearby, children, neighbors, friends, and say, "See, I told you she was unstable. I have endured this for years. Look at her violence. I do not know how I survived." This is the filthiest maneuver because it weaponizes your humanity. They have forced their own pathology to erupt through your body. For a brief moment, you are expressing the rage that belongs to them. You are the one yelling. You are the one who looks unregulated. They have placed their mask on your face. You absorb the shame that was never yours. You feel crushing guilt for losing control. You look at yourself and think, maybe I really am the problem. Look at me. I am a mess. This is psychological murder. They steal your clarity to prop up their fragile sense of order. They walk away feeling calm and justified while you are left shaking, holding their emotional waste. This tactic is designed to make you destroy yourself. If you accept the projection, you collapse inward. You stop trusting your own goodness. Guilt freezes you in place, and guilt is the strongest chain they own. Guilt keeps you trapped because you believe you must repair the outburst they engineered. You start apologizing to the person who provoked you. The devastation of projective identification is that it eats away at your trust in your own perception. You begin gaslighting yourself. You replay the conflict again and again, focusing only on your reaction while erasing the hours or days of provocation that led to it. You dissect your behavior endlessly while theirs escapes scrutiny. This is exactly the outcome they want. As long as you are obsessed with your own supposed badness, you are not examining theirs. You become the scapegoat for the entire relationship. But understanding this mechanism is the cure. You must see that your reaction was not a moral failure. It was a biological certainty created by a skilled manipulator. It was a reflex, like a knee-jerk when struck. The movement is not who you are. It is what happened to you. When you release the shame tied to that moment, the spell breaks. You recognize that the heaviness, the rage, the confusion do not belong to you. They are foreign material forced into your psyche. The narcissist depends on your agreement. They need you to sign the invisible contract that says, I am the crazy one. When you refuse that agreement, the entire structure collapses. If the empath refuses the bait, if you remain present in the heat without igniting, if you feel the pressure but refuse to scream, refuse to become the monster they require, the projection fails. The emotional sludge they attempt to dump into you hits a solid boundary and rebounds back onto them. They are left holding their own shadow. The transfer collapses. For a narcissist, being forced to sit with their own emotional waste without an escape is unbearable. It pushes them toward the very abyss they have avoided all their lives. That is when the final chaotic explosion begins. When this last maneuver fails, when you do not accept the projection, when you do not lose control, when you do not scream, the narcissist enters a state of complete psychological collapse. This is what happens when their final defense crumbles. The false self implodes. Without a human container to absorb their darkness and without a distorted mirror to feed their grandiosity, they must confront the emptiness inside. The internal walls built to contain their shame start to crack. This triggers what psychologists call an extinction burst. Behavior intensifies wildly just before it dies out, like a child screaming louder when a parent truly leaves or a gambler pulling the lever frantically when the rewards stop. For the narcissist, this is the burn everything phase. If they cannot control you, they attempt to destroy you. If they cannot possess you, they try to shatter you so no one else can. The defining features of this phase are chaos, noise, and total lack of proportion. The quiet manipulation disappears. The whispers and subtle jabs turn into open aggression. They may threaten your finances, your children, your reputation. They may threaten to expose private information, call authorities with false claims, or sabotage your work. They may spiral into reckless behavior, spending shared money, driving past your home repeatedly, drinking excessively. To someone unfamiliar, it feels like the end of the world. It looks like they have become all-powerful. But psychologically, this is proof of your freedom. The intensity of their rage measures the depth of their powerlessness. True power does not need threats. The narcissist screams because they have lost access to your mind. Terror is their last tool. You have become the witness. You saw behind the mask. You carry the truth of who they are. As long as you exist in clarity and peace, you threaten their false narrative. You are evidence of their failure. They try to erase you to erase the truth. They often introduce a new partner immediately. This revenge bond is a performance. They display happiness loudly and publicly. They do things with this person they refuse to do with you. It is designed to wound, but it is not love. It is panic. They grab new supply to numb rejection. It is a reenactment, not a romance. Behind closed doors, without an audience, their internal world collapses. Without your regulation, they sink into paranoia or depression. The rage outside mirrors terror inside. Legal and financial attacks are attempts to force engagement. Attention of any kind is better than none. They would rather be your enemy than irrelevant. If you hold steady, the fire consumes itself. Without your reaction, their energy drains. Eventually, the threats lose force. The noise fades. They retreat, not healed, but empty. What remains for you is transformation. This journey was initiation. Jung believed individuation was the purpose of life. Through this ordeal, you developed immunity. Not bitterness, not numbness, but detachment. You rise above the roles of victim and survivor and become the observer. You become a mirror. A mirror reflects without absorbing. It does not judge. It does not fix. It does not become what it reflects. When they rage, you reflect nothing. When they cry, you do not drown. You were once a sponge. Now you are a boundary. You depersonalize the behavior. You stop asking, why would a person do this? You see the mechanism. You stop expecting empathy where it does not exist. Indifference becomes your shield. They cannot fight nothing. Without your reaction, they face themselves. To sustain this state, you integrate your own shadow. You allow yourself to be selfish enough to choose sanity, cold enough to close doors, aggressive enough to defend boundaries, ruthless enough to cut cords. This is not narcissism. This is sovereignty. You emerge stronger, sharper, awake. You recognize manipulation instantly. When you encounter them again, the absence of reaction shocks you. The script no longer works. You feel neutral, quiet, free. They remain trapped in the cycle. You do not. The moment they realized you were done was dangerous, but it was also your rebirth. You now see clearly. You reclaim your energy. You step into your life. And in the Jungian sense, you finally become real.